My name is Mike, and I live in a small town in Ohio. I work as a graphic designer. My life looks good on the outside, but inside, I often feel lost. Every day starts with alarms buzzing too early, and I drag myself out of bed feeling tired and unmotivated. I sit at my desk, staring at the same projects for hours, wishing I could tap into the creativity I once had. Sometimes, it feels like my mind is a foggy cloud. I face countless distractions shortly after logging into my computer. My phone pings with countless alerts, a constant reminder of things that pull my attention away. It's incredibly frustrating, especially when my deadlines pile up. Lately, I've been grappling with a challenge that cuts even deeper. 2 months ago, I signed up for a local running competition. I thought it would be a great way to push myself, but I quickly became overwhelmed with self-doubt. My legs feel heavy after just a mile, and I wonder if I'll ever keep up with the other runners whose strides seem effortless. These doubts swirl in my brain, planting seeds of fear that hold me back from taking that next step toward my goals. I'm often too afraid to push beyond my limits, trapped in my own negative thoughts. Each morning, as I look at my running shoes waiting by the door, they remind me of battles I fear to face. I know there's more I can do. Deep down, I want to be the best version of myself, bursting with confidence and energy. As I stare out of my window at the world outside, I feel a flicker of hope. Maybe, just maybe, I can learn to be mentally tough and conquer these struggles. It's time to take that first step, no matter how small, into a journey that might transform not just my running but also the way I view my life and challenges ahead. As the days turned into weeks, I dove into my challenge, determined to conquer both my running and my mental blocks. I started each morning with a plan. I would wake up earlier, lace up my running shoes, and push myself to jog. Yet, when I stepped outside, the fresh air felt both inviting and intimidating. My enthusiasm would quickly fade away, replaced by doubts gnawing at my confidence. I would set out to run just a mile, yet I often found myself stopping after only a few blocks. I would glance at my watch, wishing time would slow down, wondering if it was too late to turn back. Every morning, my mind raced with distractions. I thought about work deadlines that waited for me. I worried about pleasing my boss and meeting the needs of my clients. That cloud of thoughts made it tough to focus, and soon enough, jogging turned into walking. I often abandoned my goal, feeling like a failure, like the doubts spun a web around me, preventing me from moving forward. I kept telling myself I would try again the next day, but deep down, I felt trapped in a loop of frustration. One afternoon during a break at work, I stumbled upon a book on mental toughness in a local bookstore. The bold letters on the cover promised a path to strength and resilience. I flipped through the pages, smiling at the advice I found, but could not help but feel skeptical. Would these words really help me conquer my fears and distractions? That evening, I returned home with the book, determined to give it a chance. As I settled onto my couch with my favorite blanket, I began to read. The book spoke about warriors of the mind, everyday people who faced their fears, just like I was. Inspiration surged through me as I flipped each page. The stories were simple yet powerful and resonated with my struggles. I realized that giving up has never led me to success, it was the choice to fight through difficulties. Inspired by these words, I attempted the deep work method that the book suggested. I planned my next day's running session more carefully. Instead of thinking about my work, I told myself to focus only on my breathing and the rhythm of my feet hitting the pavement. I prepared myself to ignore the little voice that whispered, "Just quit." The next day, I set out for my run with renewed energy. At first, things went well, and I moved with purpose. The sun was shining, and a light breeze encouraged me as I ran. However, soon that familiar sensation crept back in, my legs grew heavy, and my mind wandered. I started counting each step, hoping it would help me focus, but with every count, doubts began to form like clouds in a storm. Thoughts of failure poured into my head. What if I can't make it? What if everyone watches me struggle? In that moment of self-doubt, I could feel the old habits trying to drag me back down. But instead of succumbing to them as I did before, something clicked inside me. I recalled the words from the book, "Every small struggle is a step on the path to greatness." Instead of stopping, I forced myself to push forward, one small step at a time. Though my heart thudded in my chest and sweat dripped down my brow, I chose to remember that every runner, every victor, began as a novice. This was my journey, and I was ready to take it head on. As I moved through my days, I began to gather pieces of wisdom from my book on mental toughness. I started using those small insights in my running and work. One morning, I set my alarm earlier than usual, determined to enjoy the quiet moments before the world came alive. When I threw my legs off the bed, a bit of excitement filled me. After all, I had a plan. When I arrived at the park, I found a clear spot under the tall trees. Standing there, I took a deep breath and decided to focus. I repeated the mantra from the book, "Every step counts." As I began to jog, I switched off my thoughts about work and deadlines, willing myself to stay present and focused. This time, I successfully ran for 5 minutes without stopping and even picked up my pace. My heart raced with joy as I finished my small lap around the park. That small victory felt like the sunrise after a long, dark night. I grabbed my water bottle, sitting on a nearby bench to catch my breath. It felt rewarding to control my thoughts for a while. My belief in myself began to grow, and for the first time in weeks, I experienced a sense of pride. I couldn't wait to share this success with my running group online. But as I typed out my message, doubt poked its head back into my mind. What if they see you falter? What if you fail to keep up at the next practice? I decided to hit send anyway, reminding myself that every little win mattered. Back at work, motivation surged through me. I finally sat down to tackle a project that had been stressing me out. I applied the deep work method I'd read about, focusing for 20 minutes without checking my phone. For those precious minutes, I felt like I was truly in flow, pouring my creativity onto the screen. My fingers flew across the keyboard, and ideas sparked like fireworks. But once my timer rang, I rushed to check messages and instantly felt that familiar itch of distraction. My flow evaporated, leaving only frustration behind. That was when I realized how far I still had to go. The progress I made felt wonderful, yet I was still battling this internal struggle. It felt like 2 steps forward and 1 step back. While I was learning to focus better, I still found self-doubt creeping into my mind, especially during high-pressure moments. Tried as I might, old habits lingered like shadows, reminding me that growth doesn't happen overnight. The next day, I decided to take my running journey to a new level. I hoped to challenge myself further by joining a local training session. Surrounded by other eager runners, each one appeared strong and driven. As I looked around, I felt a wave of self-doubt wash over me. I wondered if I truly belonged there. My heart pounded harder, mixing excitement with anxiety as I tied my shoes, whispered the mantra to myself, and took deep breaths to calm my nerves. During the practice, we faced different running drills. At first, I felt good, matching my pace with a few other runners while finding a rhythm together. However, as the drill changed to sprinting, panic shot through me. I wanted to push myself, but my legs felt heavy, my breath quickened, and a voice in my head said, "Stop. You can't keep up." As each runner took off ahead, I fought the urge to give in, reminding myself of my earlier victories. Even though I struggled, I finished that training session, breathless and proud. I knew I wasn't where I wanted to be yet, but I was taking steps towards becoming the person I wanted to be. The struggle pushed me forward, and even in those tough moments, my confidence grew just a little more with each passing day. I had seen the first glimmers of progress, and I wanted to keep this journey alive. Just as I began to feel a semblance of confidence in my running and work, life threw a curveball my way. An urgent project landed on my desk at work, one that required immediate attention and a presentation the next day. This project was unlike anything I had faced before, it was high stakes and deeply important to my team. The pressure built like a balloon ready to pop, and it was as if the walls were closing in around me. That evening, I found myself staring at a blank screen, my heartbeat quickening as mounting anxiety took hold. In my mind, doubt whispered, twisting around my thoughts like a snake constricting its prey. You aren't good enough for this. You won't succeed. Just give up. The horrors of my old self surfacing sent shivers through me. Every small victory I'd achieved over the past few weeks felt like a distant memory. While trying to concentrate, I found myself falling back into the habits I'd fought so hard to overcome. My attention drifted to endless notifications on my phone, catching sight of social media posts and emails that pulled me away from the task at hand. Hours ticked by, and instead of completing the project, I ended up sinking deeper into the spiral of fear. The backdrop of late-night city lights through my window only reminded me there was so much left undone. With each second that passed, the deadline loomed closer, and so did my old feelings of helplessness. I chided myself silently. What would my running friends think if they could see me now? Even as I tried to recall the techniques I learned, all I felt was a heavy weight of disappointment. I chuckled ruefully, realizing how I'd come so far only to feel like I was at square one again. As I sat in silence, wrestling with everything closing in, I suddenly felt aware of my own rising panic. The memories of my earlier runs flashed into my mind, the moments I nearly gave up but found a way to push through. Though this was a different arena, I understood the familiar feeling of needing to push through the discomfort. Hard as it was, the world of running reflected life. I could choose how to respond. That night, I crawled into bed, drowning in thoughts of failure, wondering if the little triumphs had been illusions. Sleep escaped me, disrupted by a continued chorus of fears taunting me in the back of my mind. The next morning, an unexpected silence hung in the air as I woke. If I wanted to succeed in my big project, I needed to reach deep within for the courage to fight the tidal wave of self-doubt. I decided to wake up early and go for a run to clear my mind. The rhythmic pounding of my feet against the pavement usually helped clear away unwanted thoughts. But with that looming workload over me, running felt different today, heavy and unresponsive. With each step, doubts bubbled up. What if I mess up the presentation? What if I can't deliver the way my boss expects? Every question added weight to my legs, making it hard to breathe. My spirit faltered. But rather than surrender defeat, I tried focusing on my breath, just like the book suggested. Every inhalation filled me with the hope of a new thought: I can do this. I just have to take it step by step. Despite my struggle, the run reminded me that challenges weren't meant to break me but to shape me into something stronger. The realization sparked a flicker of determination deep inside. I finished my run feeling exhausted but a bit lighter. I knew I had a monumental challenge ahead, but I decided right there on the trail that I wouldn't succumb to the fears filling my mind entirely. Instead, I would confront them head-on and do my best at work, giving myself a fair chance to succeed. That became my new goal. I would not allow the doubts to overshadow the progress I had made. The path to success was steep, but I would climb it nonetheless. The day of the big presentation arrived far too quickly, and I could hardly sleep the night before. When I walked into the office, my heart beat like a drum inside my chest. I couldn't seem to shake off the weight of doubt. The room felt as if it was closing in on me. I glanced at the faces of my teammates, all focused on their work, and I couldn't help but feel out of place. What if I blow this? Surged through my mind. The thought clung to me like a shadow, refusing to let go. As the clock ticked closer to my turn to present, each passing minute felt like a small eternity. I achieved little more than staring at my notes, feeling as if I were looking into a foggy mirror rather than the carefully crafted ideas I had worked hard to develop. When mood swings crept in, my stomach twisted, and anger bubbled within me. My shoulders sagged under the weight of expectation. Just when it seemed I could take no more, the moment came to speak. Standing before everyone, I was frozen. I glanced at my notes, but the words scrambled together like a jigsaw puzzle. Anxiety flooded my mind, muffling everything else I learned about mental resilience. It was in that moment, under the glaring fluorescent lights, that I reached my breaking point. Mustering every ounce of courage, my voice trembled as I fumbled through my ideas. Nervousness I thought would fade only grew heavier, as if I were trying to carry a weight that was impossible. When I finished the presentation in an awkward silence, I was sure I could feel everyone thinking how poorly I had done. Soon after, my boss quietly thanked me, but I brushed aside the words. Defeat engulfed me. My heart ached, and my dreams of being someone who could embrace challenges faded into thoughts of abandoning my growth journey entirely. What had it all meant? Was I strong enough to change? Just when I thought I would succumb to these feelings, a gentle voice called out from the back of the room. It was Tom, a seasoned designer and mentor I admired. He shared his own story of confronting setbacks. He talked about how he had once stumbled through a significant presentation that led him to question his abilities. He reminded us that every professional faces struggles, and it's a part of the journey toward success. I listened closely, feeling tears prick at the corners of my eyes. As he spoke, something shifted inside me. I remembered why I had taken on the running challenge and pursued this new path. I had wanted to grow, break free from old habits, and become mentally tough. It struck me that resilience wasn't just about never failing, it was about learning to rise again, no matter how many times you fall. Each experience, good or bad, contributed to my journey. Tom's words lit a small fire within me, shifting my perspective. I realized that the road to growth would not be linear. It would be filled with ups and downs, but each stumble held lessons. With my heart racing once more, I embraced the discomfort that urged me to quit. In that moment, I decided I wouldn't give up, I would keep moving forward. Renewed clarity washed over me as I felt the burden of self-doubt ease. I didn't have to be perfect, but I could become more resilient and learn from this experience. That small spark reignited my belief in myself. I wanted to run again, in every sense of the word, toward my goals, regardless of the challenges waiting in my path. If I fell, I would learn to rise stronger. With that realization, my growth journey continued. With my heart thumping and determination pulsing through my veins, I made the decision to push forward. Tom's story sparked something inside me, and I knew I couldn't let this moment define my entire journey. Instead of running from my challenges, I chose to tackle them head-on. That same afternoon, I took my laptop to a quiet cafe. I wanted to revisit the presentation that had felt so overwhelming, and I hoped a change of scenery could jumpstart my energy and focus. At first, the gentle hum of conversation and the aroma of fresh coffee calmed me, but the moment I opened my slides, doubts clawed at me once again. What if it's still not good enough? Despite these nagging thoughts, I decided to push through. After all, I had something powerful to prove to myself. My fingers drummed against the keys as I rewrote sections of my presentation. I tapped into the structure I had learned from the book about mental toughness. I broke the work into smaller tasks, focusing first on clarifying my main ideas. The words began flowing, each rocking me a bit towards clarity, but as I continued, waves of self-doubt crashed against me. I occasionally stopped, gripping the table with my hands as darkness seeped into my mind. What if I mess up again? Instead of spiraling, I took a deep breath and recalled Tom's words. I reminded myself that even if I stumbled, it wouldn't be the end of the world. Every misstep would help me grow. I centered my thoughts on being deliberate and taking one step at a time. When I thought of my run, the struggles felt similar. I had learned to take short strides during tough stretches. So, while writing this presentation, I reminded myself to manage it piece by piece. After a few focused hours, I felt I was gaining traction. With every change I made, confidence slowly rebuilt itself. I drilled down into my slides, putting my heart into them, not aiming for perfection, but striving for authenticity and clarity. I practiced my delivery aloud, pacing the cafe as though I were in front of my team. Though I still stumbled over words and jumbled my ideas here and there, I didn't let that shake my determination. With every misstep, I nodded resolutely at myself, knowing that it was a part of the learning process. As the sun sank outside the window, I wrapped up, thanking the barista for the welcome space. Feeling lighter, I returned home, ready to rest but still focused on preparation. That evening, I spent time going over the presentation again, expecting to find new flaws. Instead, I discovered areas to refine. The weak points that would set me apart required attention. The next morning arrived, and the nerves rushed back, but this time they felt different. Instead of caving under pressure, I recognized them as an old friend urging me to step forward. I wore my running shoes and hit the pavement just before the sun peeked over the horizon, reclaiming my sense of control. Each stride hit the ground with purpose, steadying my breath and reminding me that every effort counts. As I arrived back home, I felt clean and focused, ready for the day's events. Standing before my teammates again, my palms still sweaty and heart racing, I clasped my notes with newfound conviction. The struggle lay beneath my efforts, but I felt fired up. With each word I spoke, I cherished it as an opportunity rather than a burden. The chatter, the struggles, and the effort transformed into a moment I was proud to own. With determination as my shield, I plunged into the depths of my topic. My voice may have quivered, but clarity soothed the nerves, and I embraced the journey in front of me, ready to demonstrate the resilience I had cultivated over the past few months. As the presentation concluded, I felt a mixture of exhaustion and relief wash over me. I stood before my teammates, their expressions filled with encouragement, and I finally exhaled, feeling as though a heavy weight had lifted off my shoulders. I had spoken with passion, shared my ideas clearly, and received suggestions with grace. Whether the outcome was a total success or not, I knew I had given my best effort, and that in itself felt like a triumph. Afterward, as we gathered for feedback, I noticed my colleagues nodding appreciatively, and even my boss shared a few kind words, telling me I had made solid points. Hearing these positive notes warmed my heart, even as nerves flickered within me. The feedback was constructive, while supportive, a far cry from what I had anticipated. I felt gratitude filling the space where fatigue once lay, and I understood my journey toward growth was far more rewarding than simply coming out on top. Later that day, as I walked home, my mind drifted back to where I had started. I recalled those mornings filled with doubt and the bleak moments when I almost gave up. The journey had felt overwhelming, and the fight for mental toughness seemed endless. With every difficult run and every moment of hesitation, I chipped away at a barrier I once thought would defeat me. Reflecting on this made me boost with pride. This was how growth unfolded, it sprouted from struggle. Sitting on my couch later that evening, a wave of calm washed over me. I allowed myself to relive the highs and lows of those weeks, the embarrassing moments during training when I had stumbled, the long hours I spent attempting to concentrate. It all shaped me into someone who could face challenges with resolve. I realized my growth didn't hinge on the results of a singular event, but on how I chose to confront every struggle ahead. For the first time, I could truly appreciate the process rather than just the outcome. I reflected on how the lessons I learned tied back to both my work and my running. Changes in one area flowed into the other, and I could see this mirroring my entire approach to life. Each step on my running route and every deep work session crafted a fortified mindset I never knew I could create. That night, I sat with my notebook, jotting down my reflections and realizations. Success looks different for everyone, I wrote. Winning a race or acing a project cannot define me. The true victory lies in building resilience, becoming a stronger version of myself despite setbacks and embracing every moment as part of the learning process. A newfound clarity emerged within me, illuminating the importance of perseverance and self-kindness. As the days progressed, my morning runs felt less daunting. I reminded myself that each sunrise invited fresh opportunities to face my fears anew. I felt the pulse of challenge racing alongside me, urging me on, reminding me of all I had overcome. Mental toughness isn't static, it grows and evolves through real experiences, positive or negative. I noted how, after every workout, no matter how hard it had been, I became more convinced of my strength. This transformation wasn't just about physical ability, it tapped into uncovering the mental strength I truly possessed. Later that week, when a small setback occurred with another project, I nodded rather than dwelling in frustration. I felt equipped to take a step back, assess, and learn rather than crumbling beneath my fears. These moments filled with self-awareness added fuel to my internal fire, reminding me of my journey. As I navigated this new perspective, I welcomed challenges ahead as part of my ongoing growth. Even if setbacks came, I would rise. Each time, I would rise a little bit stronger. With time, the changes I had worked so hard to create began to weave seamlessly into my daily life. Each morning, I woke up with purpose, lacing up my running shoes and stepping outside, feeling a sense of appreciation for the new day ahead. The challenge of running no longer felt like a burden, it transformed into a source of joy. I set small goals for myself, like adding a few minutes to my distance or exploring a newly discovered trail in the park. Each stride boosted my confidence and courted my mind with a bulletproof mindset. At work, the same energy flowed through me. I noticed how I approached tasks differently, freed from the relentless clutches of self-doubt. When new projects landed on my desk, a spark of excitement spurred me on instead of fear. I tackled each assignment with the knowledge that I had the ability to grow and learn from the experience. I'd recall the tools I had gathered, breaking tasks into manageable steps, practicing mindfulness to stay focused, and leaning into constructive feedback. My colleagues began to notice the shift, too. During team meetings, I engaged more actively, confidently sharing my ideas and observations without hesitating. No longer was I the one cowering behind my notes. Instead, I became an asset to the dialogue, contributing insights and sparking discussions that excited my peers. My boss complimented my growth, saying my contributions had brought fresh perspective and energy to the team. It was affirming to realize the impact of my improved mindset. One day, while chatting with Tom during a break, he mentioned how he noticed I seemed more relaxed and engaged. "You're different," he said, offering a warm smile. "There's a light about you. It's inspiring." His words hit me in a good way. I began to recognize that my journey toward mental toughness wasn't just about my personal challenges, it also touched the lives of those around me. As I settled into this new routine, stress that once sent ripples of fear through my body now felt manageable. Even when setbacks arose, instead of succumbing to negativity, I chose to view them as opportunities for growth. A missed deadline or an unexpected critique turned into moments for learning and adjustment rather than despair. I approached challenges with a mindset built on trust in myself, remembering all I had been through and accomplished. During our running group meetings, I began encouraging my peers who hesitated to push their limits. They listened eagerly as I shared my experiences, recalling times when I almost gave up but instead chose to go further. It felt rewarding to witness them flourish as they integrated those lessons into their own lives. I became a part of their journey, supporting them as they overcame distractions and fears. In moments of high pressure, finishing projects, preparing for upcoming races, or even personal matters, I learned to pause and breathe, centering myself in clarity before diving in. Instead of rushing through with anxiety, I took the time to assess my thoughts, recognizing any fear creeping back and promptly replacing it with a determined focus. This created a powerful balance in my life, enabling me to approach both my work and running with a more profound understanding of mental resilience. As I blended these lessons effortlessly into my routines, I could feel my self-assurance cementing into something stronger. The once challenging hurdles I faced now seemed less daunting, and I embraced each day with open arms and an open heart. Gratefulness filled me, as running, work, and life intertwined in an incredible way, granting me the strength to absorb whatever would come next. What once stood as obstacles had morphed into stepping stones, each a part of my ongoing journey toward growth and fulfillment. With each stride and each task, I danced with newfound determination, ever ready to embrace life's uncertainties. As the weeks moved on, I sat quietly reflecting on how much I had transformed. My running routine had evolved into being more than just physical activity, it became a method of clearing my mind and fanning the flames of my inner strength. I embraced this journey of self-discovery, release, and resilience. At work, I noticed new projects rolling in, and rather than feeling overwhelmed, I felt optimistic. My approach had shifted. New challenges now presented opportunities for growth, igniting a sense of curiosity inside me. I tackled tasks with a refreshed spirit, appreciating every tiny victory along the way, knowing how far I had come from when self-doubt had kept me paralyzed. In meetings, I confidently spoke up, voicing my ideas with clarity and purpose. My teammates rallied around me, and I reveled in the collective energy we created. We shared feedback openly, fostering a space for growth and encouragement. I understood now that each conversation lowered the barrier of fear, allowing discussions to flourish. Importantly, I had learned to appreciate the talents of my colleagues, knowing each of us held unique strengths to offer. One Friday evening, after completing a lengthy project, I received an email from my boss praising my recent work. Grinning from ear to ear, I reread her words, soaking in the affirmation. "Your commitment and engagement have made a real difference," she wrote. In that moment, I felt a swell of gratitude blossom within me. None of this would have been possible without the struggles I faced at the beginning of my journey. As I reflected on my experiences, I recalled the lessons I'd gathered, a mosaic of both small and great victories. I had learned that setbacks are not indicators of failure but stepping stones on the pathway to growth. Each time I faced a challenge, whether while running or working, I became more resilient, gaining insights into myself and what I could achieve. Sitting under the stars one evening, I realized hope had taken root within me. I was brimming with potential, I could confidently meet whatever life threw my way. The self-doubt that used to cloud my judgment lifted like morning fog, uncovering a clearer landscape of possibilities. I felt ready to embrace future challenges, burning with eagerness for what lay ahead. In recalling my journey, I came to see mental resilience as less about being unbreakable and more about the courage to confront adversity. It was also about recognizing that growth is a continuous process. Just because I encountered hard days did not mean I was backsliding, it pointed to the ongoing evolution of who I was becoming. I found strength not only in victories but also in the ability to rise again after stumbling. As I began to lace up my running shoes for my evening jog, a thought struck me. Every step would remind me that I did not have to be perfect, to just show up was already a triumph. With every stride I took, I anticipated not just an effort focused on running, but one that mirrored my journey through life, a journey filled with perseverance, laughter, and unshakable hope. A chorus of challenges stood in my way, but I would meet them with my newly forged spirit, believing firmly that no matter how difficult a mountain seemed, I was equipped to climb it. Onward and upward, I went beyond my limitations, ready for the next mountain to conquer.